This was an awesome track and field event. We have Karsten Warholm and Mondo Duplantis coming together and racing each other in the 100-meter, even though they compete in two very different events. Karsten Warholm is the world record holder in the 400-meter hurdles, and Mondo Duplantis is the best pole vaulter of all time. He has multiple times broken the world record, and they started off with some friendly back and forth trash talk, and it turned into this really highly anticipated 100-meter event.
One thing led to another. I just kind of started talking to him. He was saying I look fast, and I was like, let's race.
He was cocky, saying he could beat me in 100 meters, and I say, okay, let's go.
First suggested it to him, he was kind of like, oh, okay, you really think you could beat me? All right, whatever.
And then a lot of people followed up.
We are not guys to dodge the competition, huh?
Even though they were good friends, when it came down to them being able to compete against each other, there was obviously a little bit of bad blood there. And then afterwards, they came together and it was all cool. And I think that it would be great for the viewer to see more of that type of stuff to make it so there's just more anticipation behind the event. Even though they were friends beforehand, still friends afterwards, when the event was going on, there was that trash talk, that competitiveness that we'd love to see in some of the top athletes. I'm going to do a breakdown here in terms of what we're seeing with their sprinting mechanics. And it's great to see some of the differences that they have in a lot of the mistakes that we see within some novice sprinters really get shown up here, and it ends up really impacting Karsten Warholm in particular because he ends up losing the race. And so a big mistake that I'll see with athletes is really allowing that hand to get too far back behind with that initial action. See how Mondo Duplantis, he does a good job being able to control that. He has a little bit better reaction time. I also think he does a better job of, as his foot's coming off the block, he's also lifting the hand kind of simultaneously, where Warholm's a little bit late with that. He lifts the hand, gets his chest up a little bit more, and then he comes through with the knee and gets the foot off the block, where Duplantis does a great job of just coming straight through with the foot. While the reaction time was definitely more for Duplantis, we still see him get out a lot better, mostly because of how his steps are much more outwards. Again, we can see with Karsten Warholm, and this is one of his strengths when it comes to running the 400-meter hurdle. He's very long, gets a lot of height within that foot as he's coming off the ground, and gets a lot of length within the arms going behind him. It ends up being a bit of a negative when it comes to running the 100. He's not able to accelerate as well. He ends up popping up a lot earlier. And so this is where Duplantis was really able to separate himself, is through these first few steps. He was able to get out very well, stay in that drive phase, stayed very patient. And with his arms, while he's not typically a sprinter, he was very controlled with what he was doing with the arms as he's accelerating. He ended up running 10:37, which is super impressive for really anybody to be able to run, right? Just getting into the low 10s is a difficult thing to accomplish, but being able to do it as a pole vaulter was really a big surprise. There's a lot of people talking about how there's no way that he's going to be able to win, and here we are watching him have a better start too, like a more technically efficient start as a pole vaulter than the current 400-meter hurdle world record holder. When we get to their top speed, and you can see again, very good job staying through that acceleration phase, and once he gets to the top speed, we could see that Karsten Warholm was able to catch up a little bit there, was able to close the gap, get a little bit closer, but at the end of the day, we still see Mondo Duplantis end up being able to separate. He gets great length with that stride. I mean, they both have really good length within the stride, so it ended up really being the difference was who was able to accelerate better, right? Because once we got into this level, we could see further out from here, like they pretty much stayed the same distance. Mondo Duplantis accelerated a little bit better, got out in front, and then Karsten Warholm started to close the gap a little bit. Then Mondo Duplantis kind of opened it up a little bit more, and then it kind of just stayed that same way here for the last, maybe 25, 30 meters. Through here, we could see they're both pretty similar. They both have great length. They probably are picking up the same distance. They probably have the same foot contact time if we really broke it all down. And so it ended up being the difference was just that acceleration. And again, I see a lot of that same type of issue happen with novice sprinters where they just don't accelerate properly, and that ends up impacting their ability to get to their top end speed. We can see with Duplantis, just the last point here, is as he's striking the ground, very good job of being able to create a lot of length in the leg prior to foot strike. I know there's a lot of people that talk about, you should have like a Z within the leg, right, and then go straight down. We can see the opposite here where he's really reaching out with that leg, extending and then pulling to make it so then he could try to land as close to underneath as possible. He does a great job landing on the front part of the foot, On the left side, he has a little bit more turnout there, allows him to be able to get that leg straight up and through and extend a little bit quicker. He lands with his foot a little further out in front on the left side, but still is able to maintain a fast foot contact because of how he is slightly turned out. So then he's able to transition really quickly inwards and then push right back off. Or the right side, he does a better job landing a little more underneath him. The foot's slightly out in front, but he still is able to control, stabilize, and push off very effectively. So a little bit of a difference between one and the other. So it really falls into that same category that we see with a lot of these top sprinters, where there's a bit of a difference from one side to the other. Right side a little bit more straight, left side a little bit more turned out, but it still is able to effectively translate to being able to run fast. Again, turn 37 is still a very impressive time to run. I hope you liked the video. We do other breakdowns just like this. If you want to check those out, you can go ahead and see some of these recommendations here. Like the video, subscribe, and we'll talk to you soon.